Welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Curious podcast. Not Purious, that is not a word. I am starting this off really on a high note, and I'm happy to be joined by definitely the better half of this podcast, my brother Scott, who is joining us today. We're going to talk about the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals. It's a big week in sports, and who better to share their wealth of knowledge with you. Thank you, Scott, for joining me today.
Thank you for another incredible intro. Excited to be here. We've got 2 fantastic weeks of sports ahead of us.
It's pretty exciting. And for those of you who will watch this on YouTube, you will see that Scott he has a face now. We bought him a ring light so you can now see him, which is a really great thing because you get to see his handsome face. But also we've got headphones. We're really high tech now. I just need you all to know this. We're basically, if I could pronounce curious, that would be great. But other than
I
that,
feel like an influencer now.
I mean, you look like an influencer. If for those of you who watched it last week, he had a can of Pledge in the background that you can't see in the screens that we record. And so, Pledge, if you're curious, Scott's available for a sponsorship for a Pledge placement in the background of his video at any point in time.
No more free shout outs. Sorry, Pledge.
I mean, it really speaks to your ability to have clean and polished. You live in the desert. You take care of your furniture.
I'm not sure it's ever been used. So
Shh, don't tell the ladies or gentlemen that. They don't need to know that. You can be like our mother who oils her cabinets every week. It's fine.
I did not get that gene.
No, me neither. People are coming over. Quick, let's oil the cabinets.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's neither here nor there. We are kicking off the summer, which perfectly timed, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals. I still can't figure out why these two have not figured out how to find a little more space so they're not overlapping each other, but also, once again, not my monkeys. I'm excited for it. It gives us something to get excited about. So let's, I guess, dive in. Let's start with the NBA Finals because they start on Thursday, June 1st. So they are the first ones to come across the week here. We have the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. Talk to me about why we are so excited about these two.
I think we need to start. This is the least likely matchup that anyone could have ever anticipated. None of these talking sports heads had any inclination that this would be the matchup. Denver Nuggets were the number 1 seed in the West, just dominant all year. The Miami Heat kind of struggled all year. They made the play-in tournament. They lost the first game of the play-in tournament and really should have not even advanced, but they've just gone on this incredible underdog Cinderella run that everyone loves in March Madness, and they've just gone with it.
Which I think is really, I mean, America loves an underdog, right? But realistically, when you look at this, these are two underdogs. I mean, I know the Denver Nuggets are obviously we're ranked number 1 and they remember what seed, but they're not some big market team that everyone's, getting so excited about. They don't have a LeBron James, a big name like that. They do have Nikola Jokic, which is he's a 2-time league MVP, but even he's kind of underrated and flies under the radar.
Yeah, he could have won his 3rd straight MVP this year, but I think the voters got recency bias and just didn't want to give it to him again. And that's what their coach Michael Malone has been preaching all playoffs, that they're not this big media market and no one really shows them any respect. Even after they swept the Lakers last series, all the talk was about LeBron's retirement and not even really about the Nuggets. So they're
Yeah.
really, it kind of shows the East Coast bias towards, the major media markets. They probably don't stay up late enough to watch Nuggets games.
I respect that. The NBA games are
Yeah.
way too late.
At 7 p.m. Nuggets game, no one on the East Coast is staying up for that, unfortunately.
No, and even Nuggets fans struggle. I shout out to my 6-year-old Nuggets fan, Jordan, who I don't know how he stays up and watches games because I am not 6 years old and I cannot stay up that late.
He doesn't have to go to work, I guess.
This is true. I mean, now that summer, he's all set.
Mhm.
So I love the story that you told me about Jokic when he was drafted. Can you share that with the people? I think it's kind of it's proof of this man has not been paid the respect that he deserves.
No, he's kind of this quiet, humble superstar. When he was drafted, I shared this with you last week. It's one of my favorite sports stories of all time. When he was drafted, number 41, instead of like showing his picture and showing him being drafted, they went to a Taco Bell commercial. So I think he was like drafted and there was a gordita crunch on the screen.
It wasn't Taco Tuesday because the draft usually isn't on a Tuesday.
It
So
was not, no. So that kind of just speaks to just kind of the superstar, the quiet superstar that he is. That's how he came into the league.
and then you're playing the Miami Heat, who have won 3 championships. The Nuggets have no championships. They've never actually even been to the finals. And
Correct.
the Miami Heat have Jimmy Butler, who is the face of the team. He's also the guy behind a viral brand, Big Face Coffee. Talk to me a little bit about that.
And he's basically willed this team, put them on his back this entire playoff run. He's got this incredible just grit that nothing's going to stop him. Nobody can stop him. It's really, really impressive what he's been able to do throughout injuries and just taking on every single superstar they threw at him. And during the, I don't remember when the NBA playoffs were in the bubble down in
Mm-hmm.
Florida. I think he got tired of drinking like terrible hotel coffee and decided to create his own brand, Big Face Coffee.
And why is it Big Face Coffee? Do I dare ask?
I think that might be reference to his face. I'm not entirely
Oh,
sure.
okay. Just curious. Just curious. So if people don't recognize Jimmy Butler, they're likely to recognize Heat coach Eric Spoelstra because he is the second longest tenured coach in the NBA. He's coached Shaq, he's coached Dwayne Wade, he's coached LeBron, all through championships. So they probably would recognize him, I'm assuming, because he kind of stands out as someone who's been a staple in the
And
sports world and basketball world.
yeah, he's been in the league forever. It seems like. Can't believe Dwayne Wade's championship was 2006 with Shaq, and it's kind of incredible to think that this coach in this NBA era where we see coaches getting fired left and right, even after they make the playoffs and go on long playoff runs, his ability to coach just, I mean, the X's and O's really puts him above everyone else. That's him and Jimmy Butler combined is a pretty dangerous duo. And the Big
That's
Face
so,
Coffee,
and I mean, maybe they're all drinking face coffee in the locker room beforehand, and
extra
it's
strength,
firing them up.
the extra strength cold brew.
Strength Grill Brew. Okay, so games start this Thursday, June 1st,
Mm-hmm.
and the teams are playing for the Larry O'Brien Trophy, which has been redesigned by Tiffany, has a Louis Vuitton carrying case, which I mean, if that's anything, why not? But talk to me about the one deciding factor of this game could be the mascot.
Well, I mean, the mascot. First of all, I want to say the trophy travels it with style that we all
Clearly,
clearly jealous of in a Louis Vuitton case. But the mascot matchup, it's really no comparison. The Denver Nuggets mascot is the highest paid mascot in the league, Rocky.
what does I hired mascot at the Diamondbacks, but I can't remember the salary. But I don't think I remember it being the $625,000 a year that Rocky gets
Yes.
paid.
Yes.
Is that because he works at high elevation?
High elevation. He's got to bring the energy. 82 games. Get the home crowd fired up.
I
I mean, it's
mean,
extreme home court advantage.
yep, Rocky, your home court advantage. The other thing that I haven't seen anyone confirm yet, and maybe you have, but I think you're probably dead on with this assessment. It's probably the highest elevation change between home courts, between Denver and Miami, which that's going to be, I mean, that's for anyone who's traveled to Denver, you're winded after a flight of stairs, even if you're in good shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we completely maybe have made that stat up that this is the biggest elevation change
But
in
I like
campus
it. I
history, but
mean, it
it's got to
makes
be right. You can't get more sea level than Miami.
Miami, maybe Houston. I mean, I'm not up on my geography when it comes to or topography,
No,
whatever
so
that would
yeah,
be.
that'll definitely play a huge factor. All the flights,
Absolutely.
frequent flyer miles, and being a mile up in the Denver altitude.
Right. So how does the series work? Is it 2-2-1-1-1-1-1? One
Yes,
one one one. Okay.
up to
7
7.
game series. Okay.
However, we get to 7. Yeah,
Got it. Okay, well, let's talk about something that's really interesting for these Florida teams. So we have the Miami Heat, obviously, in the NBA Finals. Then we have the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals, which is the National Hockey League. And no city has won both the NBA and NHL championships in the same year. So these two are trying to pull off that feat and trying to win their first championships is obviously the Denver Nuggets, but the Panthers' competition in the Stanley Cup Finals are the Vegas Golden Knights, and so they're both looking to win their first. Where the Florida Panthers and Miami Heat are looking to make this big historic combo. So I guess let's talk about it and use that to segue a bit into the Stanley Cup Finals.
absolutely. And if I can jump back real quick, just the comparisons between the Heat and the Panthers. Both teams barely made the playoffs. They weren't playing well, and they've just both gone on this incredible underdog Cinderella run that we love in March Madness, we love in society, we love in sports. So it's it's really truly amazing what they've both done to piggyback off each other.
Must be the big face coffee.
And they're shipping it over to the Panthers arena, apparently.
So talk to me a little bit about the Stanley Cup Finals and what we, excuse me, should look for in that.
And we should get out in front of this that we're extremely biased towards the Vegas Golden Knights living
But
in
we
Las
cover
Vegas.
but we cover sports in a very unbiased way.
Yes, we do, but we are absolutely rooting for the Golden Knights.
This is a true statement. True
We've
statement.
got two very non-traditional hockey markets, Vegas and Miami, going for the Stanley Cup. And kind of like the Nuggets, the Golden Knights were the number 1 seed, pretty dominant all year. Now they're facing the underdog Panthers, who are just on an extreme heater, if we're going to use a Vegas term.
Makes sense. And I should note that I pointed this out to someone earlier today. It's not the Las Vegas Golden Knights; it's the Vegas Golden Knights. So
Just
just so if
Vegas.
you want to fit into the mix, and it's also Nevada, not Nevada. So those of you who are listening who say Nevada, you're not going to fit in. It's Nevada.
You're wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my duty to share that with all of you who are listening to make sure you're in the know.
Thank you for your service.
So, a game changer to me, I thought this was interesting about not touching the trophy. So, talk to me about this whole is it not touching the Stanley Cup trophy? What is this? What is this tradition, and who broke it and who didn't?
Well, the tradition once you win the conference finals, West has a conference final trophy, East has a conference final trophy, and the hockey tradition is to not touch that trophy once you win your conference championship, because ultimately your goal is to touch the Stanley Cup and raise that at the end of the season. And the Panthers, I think they just feel like they're on this incredible run, so they said,
Screw
screw
it.
the tradition. We're going to pick this trophy up and we're going to enjoy our time with it. And then the Golden Knights went with the traditional route of not touching the trophy.
Do you think there was conversation in the locker room beforehand, or did someone just go rogue?
From what I've read and heard, the Golden Knights opted not to because they touched it that first season
Mm-hmm.
that they went to the Stanley Cup. So they opted, the captains and the star players said, no, we're not going to do it this time.
That makes sense.
So I don't know. There's no real right answer. I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks.
And if you're, I
As
mean, yeah, if you're superstitious, right?
Yeah, I mean, both teams are looking to win their first Stanley Cup, so I guess we'll find out kind of where this tradition lies.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, and it's kind of a dichotomy of tale of two cities in the sense that the Vegas Golden Knights were looking like they were going to sweep the Dallas Stars. The Stars came back.
Mm-hmm.
They played 6 games, and Vegas won in 6 games. Where the Panthers have been off because they swept their series. They've been off for what, a week and a half ish, probably
A
two
week
weeks
or
by the time the
so.
series starts on Saturday.
Yes. Yes, and for hockey players, Stanley Cup's basically every other night. So they're just in this, groove every other night they're playing. And I think taking a week off will probably have a little bit of an impact on the first few games.
They might have, yeah, they might get a nice rest, but do you lose your momentum is always, I mean, that's with anything, right? Your
Yeah,
body's tired, but your
with
mind
rest,
is
rest first rust.
rest versus rust,
Yeah,
maybe. Okay. Before we dive too far into it, I want to talk about this Panthers tradition of throwing rubber rats on the ice. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
if you're tuning in for the first time, you might be a little surprised seeing rats on the ice in Florida. That's something I think it started back in 1995 in their old stadium. I believe their captain, there was a rat in the locker room. I think the captain took a stick and destroyed it and went out and had an incredible game. And kind of ever since then, fans bought right in and started. Thankfully, not real rats on the ice; they are rubber, so we're not smuggling live rats into the arena.
So are we throwing the rats every time they score a goal, or does it have to be a hat trick? Because I believe the original captain who killed the rat, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
PETA, killed the rat, scored 2 goals that game. So do they get thrown if someone scores 2 goals? Do you know if there's a rhyme or reason, or are we just throwing rats at abandonment?
Well, we don't want to throw rats all the time. You kind of lose its luster. It's after wins,
Oh,
after wins.
afterwards.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. Noted. Noted.
So when you turn on that TV, don't be too alarmed that there's hundreds of rats
I
if they
mean,
do win a game.
okay. And one thing I thought, and for those of you who are listening, we have a great podcast that'll be coming up here after this one about the adventures of the Stanley Cup. But let's talk a little bit about the Stanley Cup trophy itself. It's a 35-pound trophy that gets around. Every player, staff member who wins on the winning team gets to spend a day with it. And we have all the adventures of the Stanley Cup trophy in the following podcast. It's been on some wild rides, but it's one of the only major sports trophies that isn't recreated every year. They instead add a ring to the cup. And then after I think it's 3 years or so, they take the ring of the oldest team off and put the new one on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even got its own handler, Phil Pritchard, which travels everywhere with the cup, puts on the
He
white
wears white
gloves.
gloves.
He
Yep.
does. And so yeah, once the team wins the Stanley Cup that next year, everybody in the organization gets a day with the cup to do whatever they want with it. There is rules, but I don't know how well they follow them sometimes.
There it's had a good time and maybe some bad times too.
I'm thinking
Just
Stanley Cup in Las Vegas or Miami. There might be some pretty incredible stories coming out of
this is a
the
true
things it
statement.
might be doing that may never have done before.
It's probably partied pretty hard. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sure it has, but I think
not
Miami
Vegas or
did its
Miami style.
not Vegas or Miami lifestyle. So the Cup's in for a rude awakening. I think either way.
Poor Phil better get some like blinders, like a
Yeah,
horse in a parade,
he just looks away.
and some extra bleach.
Imagine if there's some rats in there, plastic rats. Wouldn't
Oh,
want that. No,
I did learn that the Stanley Cup holds 14 cans of beer.
that was confirmed.
That was confirmed by Phil Pritchard.
Okay, like I think I said in the podcast, it was the most drinkable trophy.
I mean, let's Vegas win it so we can figure this out. Okay.
We'll figure out a way to get
It's our
14 beers.
best chance we've got.
Yeah,
14 White Claws.
I mean, that's a party. So yeah,
Yeah, I'd have to be carried out. Before we wrap up the Stanley Cup finals and the NBA finals, is there anything you would like to share with the good people of the world about those games or anything that they maybe should be looking for that we haven't covered?
I think they're not the most anticipated finals, but I think both series are going to be a lot of fun. A lot of great competitors going in, so I think it's just going to be a lot of fun for the next 2 weeks. Sit back and enjoy.
I think that's great. Okay, so NBA finals start on Thursday, June 1st. And the Stanley Cup finals start on Saturday, June 3rd. You will have to keep me posted because I will be at Taylor Swift. I have priorities.
She's not going to stream it.
She could. I mean, if she didn't stream anything for Aaron Rodgers at the last concert in New York, I think I'm kind of SOL.
Okay, well, we'll give you a pass.
I should have made a last night's game hat in sequins or something.
There's still time.
There's still time. Get out my glue gun. I'm gonna put Dazzler. I'll lose a finger. Who am I kidding?
It's worth it.
Well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. And if you want any more about anything we've talked about today, head over to lastnightsgame.com or, of course, our social media platforms at Last Night's Game. And you can always DM us on Twitter and Instagram. And we are the two people who post all those things. You will catch us and we will chat back with you. Thanks.
Thank you.